even though it is predominantly Muslim. So I think distinction, or you should notice that there are cultural practices that are not necessarily Islamic.
Thank you. That's a good point. Another good point to add. Good. Next one. Oh, you're already there. What's right? What is allowed and what is prohibited? This is a big topic of people. The things that are allowed is everything, except that the things that specifically God said that it's prohibited. But if it's not specifically said it's prohibited, then it is allowed. It's halal. There is halal, which is, you might have heard, halal meat or something. Everything is halal, except when it says that it is prohibited. And there is a verse in the Quran that says, "Come and I will rehearse what Allah has really prohibited you from." And this is a list of things. I'm going to let you read that and see if anyone has any objection to it. I'm sorry, yes?
I have a question. I was wondering how you feel personally, Mohammed, about how you would like to see, how would you personally like to see things go in Egypt with the interpretation of the Sharia, and how do you feel about it, you personally? How you would like to see things happen in accordance with the Sharia in Egypt? You personally,
Okay.
and your friends, and your family. And
Sure.
how
Can I just defer this until I finish what Sharia
Yeah,
is
sure.
and what it is? Then I'm not scared. You remind me.
Okay.
Okay, so let me go through this. I'll get back to this. I'm going to do this quickly, so because the questions. Okay, we'll go to the next one. If anyone has any question about this, there is the next verse to it. It's a continuation. If you want to go through this and see if anything that's not clear. Okay?
I was getting a question, and I don't know if it was in this part. What are honor killings part of Sharia law?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Is that
The short answer, absolutely not.
That's a cultural thing.
Yes.
Okay, good.
I don't think I put this here. Life is sacred. You cannot take life for anything except by what there are certain things that you can take life. Definitely, there's no such a thing as honor killing.
But when you have some of these people in this country that try to go into the courts, and is that just a ploy saying I want the court to go by my Sharia law?
I'll go in this in 1 minute if you give me.
As moderator, I'm going to ask them to let Mohammed have another one.
5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes,
to finish,
then I
and
know
then
that
we
there
can
are
do
questions
Q&A.
when I throw it.
All right.
Give me 5 minutes.
All right, go.
I'm sorry?
Just wanted to ask about the line, no burden that we place on any soul that would be under. Does that mean human placing as opposed to, say, something like cancer or, a burden?
A burden that you would God will not give you something you will not be able to bear.
So the we, why is that attractive? Rather than
I'm trying to.
No burden
after
you
justice, no
Oh.
burden do we place on any soul.
Do we place in any soul? Yes. Yes, it is God. It is God talking, yes. That's God.
That's the job.
Okay, I'll explain it, but I don't think I have the time to explain it. But let me get to this. Go to the next one, Rose, please. One of the things that people argue about, intoxicants, alcohol is prohibited in Islam. Gambling is prohibited in Islam. Dedication of idols and foretelling is prohibited. It's also prohibited. Okay. Next one. Justice. The concept of justice is really it's coming back and forth in Islam. It came a lot.
Sorry, Mohammed, I didn't know I couldn't go that way.
It's all right, you go ahead.
Like the mission, I get lost there too, you know?
Thanks,
Now I
So the concept of justice, stand firmly for justice, bearing witness to the truth for the sake of God, even though it's against your own selves, your parents, or relatives. So God will not accept it because somebody was different than you, or because you have hatred against him. You wouldn't have justice. That's not allowed. That's what the justice. Next one. Another verse that admonishes us with justice, the concept of justice, and that's repeated several times in the Quran. Next one. Some of the aspects, I just put a few words about the moral and the practical aspects of leadership. And it's dealing gently with people. There are several references to what the Prophet is admonishing the Prophet to tell him what to do and what he did. And there are references to how a leader should act and behave. Next one. Dictators don't like this, generally, because you counsel with others. And dictators want to have their own say, a single say, but in matters. But it's some people said, oh, God wanted to have that people have confer and counsel with one another and come together with the right decision. Next one. Dealing with other faiths. I think the question was asked here before. How about the others? And is this the right way or the wrong way? I think you asked this. God gives you everything, and you choose. I would like to believe, and every one of us would like to believe, that they are on the right path, they are on the right way. I certainly do believe that. But I don't know about the others. Everyone, and it says clearly, God is going to judge between people on the day of judgment, on the day of resurrection. So it is not our job to fight others, to coerce others into one religion, and say, my religion is better, you have to leave yours and come to mine, or sort of that. You just tell them, this is my religion. If you want it, you can come to it. If you don't, you don't. Because I'm not going to bear your burdens on the day of judgment. You are going to carry it, and you're going to have to be answering to God. Next one. This is again on talking to other faiths, talking to other people. People of the book are the Jews and Christians in general. So nothing here that says you have to force them, you have to coerce them into anything. Next one. Oh, men and women. Woman is a 7th class citizen in Islam, and we hear things that they don't have rights and all of that. One of the things that they base this on is they don't go when they take less money. I mean, you look at the statistics here and the statistics in Muslim countries, it really, and how much women generally make here in this country and how much they make in a country like Egypt. I've seen this. Actually, Egypt is better in how women do fare in wages and salaries that they do. There are different circumstances, but in general, this is how the behavior of men should be, supporting women. And one of the things also taken about that they always, which is in Sharia, women have to take, with inheritance, she takes 1/2 of what, if there is a brother and sister, the brother will take double what the sister will take, what his sister will take. And people will question, why is that? It's because of this. It's because when a woman marries, a woman, and she gets inheritance, she doesn't have to spend a penny from her money in her house. The husband is responsible for providing for the family. And even if it says, even if the woman is a millionaire or a billionaire, whatever the case may be, she doesn't have to put a penny. By Islamic law, it's the responsibility of the man to provide for the family. And that's why the man is given double, because he's going to have to provide for them. Provide for a woman, for his wife, and for his for his sisters. So next one, please. Jihad, it's a long subject, but the bottom line of this is where only you can fight against aggression, oppression, injustice, and occupation. There is fighting. The other jihad is struggle against oneself and struggle against everything that we have in life. Next one. I'm going to skip this. Next one, Rose. I want to get to a couple more. Everybody is equal. This simply says everybody is equal, and the difference between us in the sight of God, the most honor of you in the sight of God is one conscious of Him. Next one. Next one. And next one, because I'm going to get to this thing here. Because everybody is all up in arms about, the cutting off the arms, cutting off and throwing in adultery and all of this. Just very quickly, in Islam, yes, the theft, for example, has to be, or not has to be, very specific rules that are very hard to attain for cutting off a hand. And if I'm going to just do this very quickly because we don't have time and get your questions later on. But these are the things that in Islam people reduce everything to this. They leave everything we talked about because that majority, all of it is good, nobody has a problem with it. And we come to the 2%, 1% actually, in Sharia that talks about this stuff. Next one. Next one. The laws in general, there's a lot of things we need to talk about. Criminal law, family law, and transaction laws of transaction that does everything. Next one. This is generally what the Sharia does or tries to do, a balance between the interest of the individual and the society, and how we can balance it to have a good moral society. Next one. And the last one. This is the last one. So the Sharia is, as somebody put it, that's not mine, realistic idealism or idealistic realism. That's what I have about this. There is many things, of course, of time. It's a big subject, big topic. I didn't really give it what's supposed to can have a long discussion on this. But I will be happy to, we have time to get
basket at this point. We appreciate your contributions towards this event. The basket partly supports Art Rage.
Yeah, it's the Penny Art Rage. This is the wonderful gallery that we are finding ourselves in. Most times of the year there would be a lovely, not necessarily lovely, but a thought-provoking, powerful display of artwork here. So we encourage you to come back at other times. The next display comes up in September 10th. And then anything beyond that will support the work of CNY working for just peace in Palestine.
So I'm going to ask that we have questions now, and it would be wonderful if you would keep them brief and to the point so that we can have time for as many questions as possible. So, we had lots of questions before when it wasn't question and answer, so there must be some now. Yes, Renee.
I'm wondering how you would define the role of social media in the Arab Spring, how big a role it played, and whether it was the right time in history and social media happened to be here, or social media helped push the right formula on.
My understanding, it did actually play a big role. It played, and it was there. They started to use it 2 years ago. There was a one of the revolution leaders.
It doesn't work.
It wasn't actually, the mic didn't make any difference. It was just.
he was taking your.
No, he said he didn't read it. So I can move also because he told me don't move from here. Are you still?
Yeah, you can move over.
Oh, I'm done. Okay. That's the one of the people was a Google executive, and he had started a Facebook page in June of 2010 when one of the young people was killed by security, by the police in Alexandria, Egypt. And that's movement. Facebook had 500,000 people coming and looking at it, and the young people started. I don't have a Facebook, so I don't know how it works. But they started actually to go to it, and they used this. They used the videos, the YouTube video, like the young lady used at the beginning. They started to showing. They used the text messages, and it connected people. And it was the first revolution that really, and when I talked to people, our relatives there, they were getting the messages, they were getting the emails, the Facebook, and all of this. So it did play a role in getting people out.
There was someone over here first. Let's do a little stack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay.
I just had a question. I think a lot of people are afraid of, I've heard that bills have been passed, which seems ridiculous to me, that, Sharia law is going to be illegal in the state of Wisconsin or whatever, it can never take over. What is the difference? Like Catholic Church has its canon law, and, if you go to a fundamentalist Christian church, they have a list of things that you can and can't do in their interpretation of the Bible. But what's the difference with Sharia law? Because it seems like a lot of it is pretty similar to what's, in other faiths. Is it just that everyone has to follow it? Or, why are people so, is it just because when a country follows it, is it the same as if fundamentalist Christians were to come in and then try and dictate what everybody in the country can do? Why are people so afraid of it, I guess is my question. How is it different from another church kind of law, canon law?
There isn't much difference. One of the things that it relates to this, it comes, I think I had this today, actually was in the news, that in Egypt was a Christian, the Coptic church in Egypt, they were objecting to a rule by the courts, by the court system that allowed for divorce. Divorce is not allowed. And so they went, the people left the church, and they said because the church didn't allow them to get a divorce, so they went to the civil courts, and the civil courts said, okay, you can have a divorce. Now, they were objecting to this, and they said, no, only the laws of the church should apply. Now, it's up, and the government, I think everybody respects this in Muslim majority countries, or any of these countries. The Sharia applies with the family laws and everything, applies only to the people that they follow. So the canon law, or the halakha law, I think the Jewish laws, that's what it's called, they have certain specifics on what they need to do. So I think the fear, or what I see related to, they're going to cut off the hand, they're going to stone the adulterer. But when you look at the Jewish law, the Jewish law also have the stoning there, and the killing for even crimes that are much less than that. You can have a person that could be killed, and legitimately for disobeying their parents, and for many things. Would this be applied, and when it would be applied? The speculation again, because of the time limit, I can tell you that it probably will never be applied if it's legitimate. It's just that people, how can you do this? This is barbaric. Okay, that's, God specified this, and in all the traditions that happen.
Okay, we have a stack. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay.
Yes, one of your... Apparently there's a car, there's a matrix that's parked right next to us in the lot that the lights are on, so if anyone drives a matrix, park in this parking lot without any.
We're gonna have to push the car.
Yes, I wanted to say that one of your visuals, as I saw it, referred to that the man had to support the woman. A big point made out of that, at least by my interpretation. What does Sharia law say about the relationship of men and women in the home? Is it equal? Who has the power? Do they have equal power? What does it say about the status of women in society? What does it say about women's equality?
Women's equality, let me start with this. The men and women have the same rights in Islam. They have exactly the same rights. They have the same obligations and they have the same rights.
In the home?
In the home and outside. So they are, when they have at home, if you talk about home, I think it depends. Every home is different. You can't say there are some homes that would work out if the woman does certain things and the man does certain things and they come together. Generally, the man is the head of the household, and because he works and brings the money, that people would interpret this. But what happens with the children? I don't think, the Islam doesn't say, this is the man, this is the woman, and the man is always above. It does not say this. What you saw there is that the man has certain rules and he has to support. The woman doesn't have to use her money, so he has to support the home by his money. The woman is taking care of the children generally, and she's closer to handle the children than the man. So there is nothing that, as far as I know, in the Sharia that says the man has to do this and the woman has to do this. Whatever they agree on, that's how it goes.
And what about the status of women in society in general?
The status of women have the same rights. They have the same. She can work. She can get education. She can. One of the things that there is somebody called. I think he's one the people refer to Al-Qaradawi, called Yusuf Al-Qaradawi. He's now the head of the Muslim, the highest cleric in the world right now. He has two daughters. One has a PhD in physics, and she does teach. She got it from England, and the other daughter has a PhD from some other thing. So he allowed his daughters to work, to go and have work and to get to the highest level of education, and she can get any job she wants.
I know I'm not in fact here. I really have to say, Mohammed, I respect so much your tact and your way of speaking, but I feel like what we're not saying is that the reason that you or someone else has to stand up and on some level defend the principles of your religion is only reflecting the intensity of the Islamophobia in Western society. I am Jewish, and if we went through Torah this way, we would find the same outrageous statements, and then if we looked
Very similar ones.
Yes, and if we looked at certain communities, isolated communities here and there, we would say this is how the women are treated. It's terrible, So I just think that we have to put this in that context, and even in the questions that we ask, consider where has that Islamophobia, filtered into our own perspectives. It's so deep in our culture right now that I feel like I want to apologize to you that you didn't have to stand here and do this. Right.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you for saying this. I really appreciate it. And one of the things that you said that, whereas Ali, he had mentioned it, that mentioned before, the difference between the Islamic teachings and the culture. And when we mix them, we get things, and we say, as the question about honor killing, is honor killing in Islam? It's not, but you get people to do different things than what the religion requires them to do, and they say that this is the religion, and they attach to this. So like what happened with the guy in Norway the other day, the Christian. Christian fundamentalists or extremists who killed. I mean, would the Muslims now say, this Christianity is bad and look at what they're doing, they're killing people, and we're going to start a whole new thing? But that's nuts.
And I want to appreciate this conversation that the focus needs to be on not just understanding Sharia law, but understanding more what is the underlying structure that makes this so frightening. Because as we would all say, there are all religions that we don't subscribe to, but we don't feel, I don't go burn down the Catholic Church and say, you can't do that, right? Because I just am not Catholic. So, okay. Sherry, and then it was Michael, and then Peter. Yes.
Getting back to Egypt and your Egyptian roots, and the fact that you've lived in America for a long time, and maybe you've lived other places, I don't know. I was just wondering what your hopes and how you would like to see things go in Egypt. What direction, maybe what parties do you support? What would you like to see happen in your original country of Egypt?
I would hope that they mix both what we have here in the West, the good things, take the good that we have, the good values that we have. They have the values, they have the good moral values that they have. I want them to keep this and get some of the things that's moving this country up. The democracy, for example. Whatever this democracy is, they have the freedom of speech and the stopping the brutality of people, how to deal with one another as respect for human rights, for the individual. This is something that they can take. What's the best thing that can happen? To me, if I have a magic wand to do everything, and I would get someone like Mohamed Khater, who was the head. Who's the head of the the International Atomic Energy something agency. So he's a Nobel laureate for his work on this. I think he lived in Egypt and he lived outside. And if I want somebody to mix both, and I still want a government that's more maybe with the Muslim Brotherhood in there, to say that they're rooted in what really people want. Because I can come in, now that I lived here close to 30 years, I might not know exactly what happened in the country in the past 30 years, but you have people connected. So if you have both people, a president from one side, thank you, and a government that's close to the grassroots, and they can work together, and they have the vision would be better for both. I hope that this happens.
All right, we're going to have Michael and then Peter and then a few more, and then we're going to break up into more informal conversations. There's still good refreshments left. Michael.
See, you've mentioned a lot of similarities between what I'll call just U.S. law and Sharia law. Although you did mention that divorce there would be differences. What areas do you think that Sharia law would differ most from U.S. law?
In the divorce, there are certain stipulations.
Divorce is an example.
Divorce is
other examples.
For others, inheritance, for example. I think mostly the family laws. This is mostly when people say we want to apply the family law in our own way. And this is one of the things that it happened in London, that they have some courts, and I think they pushed to have the courts, a Muslim court, to handle the issues between families and individuals at some point, in some contracts and individuals. And this is allowed in Islam because whatever you put in the contract, in the marriage contract, for example, that will go. If you don't say anything, then you follow the Islamic law. If you stipulate, for example, here, that I follow, if we have any dispute, we'll go to the court, the civil court. If here, for example, husband and wife got together and they're going to separate, I think that the wife gets half of the money, I don't know what's the deal with Schwarzenegger now. How much he's going to give out, I'm not really sure. But,
Different states have different laws.
I'm sorry?
Different states have
Oh,
different
okay.
laws.
So different states have different laws. So there is also the law, the Islamic law defines how much the wife will take. There is a divorce of the money. So it also regulates the money. So this is one issue, one of the main issues.
Are there any questions, just a privileged questions that aren't specifics about Sharia law that maybe that are, we have Peter next, and then I'll take two more, and then we're going to pray. Peter.
I love the quote from the Quran. It said, one atom of evil versus one atom of good. And while we were thinking about that, I'm also thinking about, the possibility of some places in the world becoming nuclear-free zones. We're talking about maybe making a nuclear-free zone in Latin America, for instance. And there is. And there is the possibility of having a nuclear-free zone in the Middle East. So no nuclear bombs, no nuclear power plants and so forth. I wonder what you would say and what the people who have created this, who have sustained this wonderful revolution in all these different countries, what people would say about having a nuclear-free zone.
Everybody wants
while we have our magic wand out.
Everybody wants to do this, but everyone knows that it's not going to happen because you have a country that is not will not listen to anything. Doesn't even say that we have nuclear weapons, but of course everybody knows. So
and do you think
it's not going to happen.
Do you think that if Mohammed al-Baradei got in, that he would have some influence in that area?
On Israel?
No, not by himself. But he would prioritize an issue in a way that would make it a big issue for everybody.
No one in the Arab world is even close to having nuclear power. No one. I mean, Iran is not an Arab country, but they have their own way of thinking. But I don't know. I don't know if he's going to change it.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. 1, 2, and then we're going to break.
Mohammed, I just, if it's appropriate, you could give just your opinion if you think that the Cairo trilogy would be a good book for people to read. In the sense that all the holy religions all have their book or Bible or whatever that tells how good we're supposed to be and everything. But like in a lot of religions, we don't live up to all of that. So, but I like the history of it, the evolution of the 3 generations or what. So, what do you think?
Cynthia read the Cairo trilogy. The trilogy refers to a family that lived in the 1920s, 30s, and so on, and 40s. And this was written by Naguib Mahfouz, who is a Nobel laureate. It's 3 big volumes. And it does give a very good, it goes to the detailed level of what people think or thought at the time. It's a very good reading. I read it a long time ago in Arabic. But if you can get to it, that would be great.
When I read it, I felt like I was right there in that family. I mean, because the writing is so wonderful. If you're here tonight, I recommend.
And the name of the book again?
The Cairo
Trilogy. It's the work of Naguib Mahfouz, and all of his work, by the way, refers not just this. There are a lot of his work.
How do you spell that?
The first volume, I forget it was Sugar Alley or there are 3 different books. Sugar Alley.
I think so.
Okay.
The spelling of Naguib Mahfouz is Nagiub, and the last name is Mahfouz, Mahfouz.
I bet if you Google Cairo trilogy.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll find it.
Right. All right. One more, and then Barry, and then we're breaking.
So, to what extent did your family and friends take an active part in what has just happened in Egypt?
It varies, but we have people who are very involved, and they go down to the streets, and still go until now, still have demonstrations and Tahrir Square and all of that. And some, they want things to go better, but they don't get involved as much. But the majority of the people now are really hoping for things to change. Some of them take an active role, and some of them just keep hoping and praying.
Okay, Barry, and then Grace.
I find this fascinating. I don't feel like you're defending, I feel like you're explaining for those of us that are really curious and have not been exposed to this kind of teaching. You've been teaching me about what Islam really is for a while, and I thank you for that. There was one thing on the last slide that I wanted to ask about, and it was the idea that when judging something under Sharia law, you consider the intention. And I was wondering, is that intention, as in American law, that I intended to commit this act? Or is it intention as far as motivation? This is why I did something. And I have a second part question to that, and that is, I think what may be scary to a lot of Americans about Sharia law is that from what you put up, it seems like one of the ways that you judge things is about how it relates to God, which incorporates God into a legal judgment, which is like not something we do here. So could you comment on those two?
Yes. The intentions and judging the intentions. God is the only one who can judge the intentions. We, a judge, will not. This was meant, actually, I should have explained, I didn't get a chance. The explanation, the intentions is judged by God, not by a judge here on earth. So you don't get into the intentions. You look at the actions and whether it's punishable under the law or not. And then, are there any circumstances, extenuating circumstances that would do this? And if you say your intention, which is the same thing that happens here, it's the same thing. The second part, as you say, whether you want to incorporate God into this. The answer to this is that not really incorporate God. It's a set of laws. And I'm not all what I said when I was talking about God here is that for Muslims, when they look at this, they have God always in front of them, and that's a more even. It's something that would stop them from doing wrong, even if I'm not going to be seen, even if I can steal and no one can see me. And even if I can do something that no one would see me, but I know that God is always there and He will see me. So this is always, it's a deterrent to crime, a possible deterrent to crime. But it's not replacement. The laws could be put by anybody, the Supreme Court or whoever, or the Congress, and will go with them, has nothing to do with God.
I would really like to thank Mohamed for some excellent teaching and for illumination of some of the challenges, and also sort of the conversation about how vigilant we have to be about Islamophobia and separating things we don't understand from things we're afraid of, from things that are dangerous, and really trying to unpack all those, because we have a tendency to fear and to jump to conclusions and overgeneralizations whenever there's something mentioned. We're like, did you know? And like, what? And and it's sort of like, so the next question, as I say to my students, it's like, try to find out. There are many sources of information out there. You're certainly welcome, to talk to Mohamed and to Magda about how to find out more about, the Islamic community in Syracuse. We would really encourage you to, if you're interested, to join the group, CNY Working for Just Peace in Palestine and Israel. We have speakers, we have films, we have lots of events, we table, we talk, we learn. We are focused on our own education as well as trying to educate others. There's sign-up sheets over there. If you don't join the organization, at least come to our events. So thank you very much. And the basket is so moved.
A couple of things. I know some of you had questions. I might have some questions raised even more than what you care. I really, as Mara said, we probably will try to set up, because there are lots of things I skipped, and you might have some, you're not really clear about some of the things. So we'll try to set up a different thing, maybe to get into more detail about the questions that you want. Also, there are some brochures that I had here about Sharia in America, and about one very interesting thing that Prophet Muhammad honored by the Supreme Court, which is in one of the things. So you might want to have it and read about this. The brochures are here. And I have the full if you're interested, what I read from excerpts from the Muslim Brotherhood leader, if you're interested in that. Thank you very much for giving me the chance.
Thank you.